Alright, let's talk about some of the things I learned from making my first album. Definitely learned a lot about what I need to learn about. Yeah, it's painful to know that you have shortcomings while they're happening. It's a lot of pressure to try to make an album on the spot because the way that we made it was pretty much um, we just recorded it straight across. There's no production or anything like that on it. It can't really use any production. It's just duets of piano and bass and piano and drum machine. So I would say that the hardest part about making it was the rhythm, you know. And he told me at the end, he's like, "We'll make more songs later, but you have to get your rhythms down." And then basically my timing, like my metronome timing, is what I needed to work on because when it goes off, it could mess up the whole track, you know. And there's a bunch of them that, you know, he was able to play along with what I was doing, but it wasn't perfect on my end. So when you hear little scratchy things, and you know, if you don't have your bass set up just right, it sounds clickety clackety, and it sucks. You know, it's really frustrating to record and expect it to be perfect. But if you don't land it on like one take, I don't think it's as good. You know, like to hear, okay, well, we landed this part of the bass line. Why don't we just repeat that? I don't know if that's a good idea. Just might not sound like real bass playing since you can identify it. So I really don't want any of my shit produced if I could do it right. And it seems like I do have the skills to land stuff on the spot, like compose on the spot, which is always important for me. I want to be able to work with other players. The way that I pretty much played bass on this album was not modal, you know, and that was kind of a shortcoming for me. I wanted to do modal kind of stuff. Like when you do scales, there's the major scale, the minor scale, but then there's a lot of different modes that you could use. And I didn't want to use the minor or major scale, but that's all I used pretty much. Because when you're going to tie together bass lines, he made a joke at my bass lines, and nice two note bass lines. I really like using maybe two or three notes, and maybe even one note on some of my newer stuff that I made without him. It actually adds presence and more power when you don't have any other bass lines within your bass line. Like, it's hard enough to follow someone that's soloing on time, but to throw in a bass line with somebody that's soloing might ruin his solo because you don't really know where he's going to go. And the whole album is just basically soloing. So I feel like it worked out, but it was just solos, you know. And I wanted a solo too, but it was like there wasn't a lot of time. Like I drum soloed here and there, but not really. There wasn't a lot of time to like we actually made 10 songs per day, and we really didn't want to slow down. We kind of just wanted it to be over with, you know. And that's kind of the hard thing about recording. It's not as fun as just jamming because you're just trying to land stuff, and you just get bored of it after a while. I think after 4 or 5 weeks, we record for 4 weeks for about 4 or 5 hours a day, and you're done with it. You know, like what else are you really gonna put on it? You see how far I could go with my bass playing. We see how far you can go with the piano playing. If people, you don't want to give them like too much all at once. It's kind of a mistake to, and there's a lot. It's kind of a mistake to just keep adding more and more shit into it and like making it a huge monstrosity when it's pretty much not going to get any better as it is, and it's better to move on from it and just say, it was a really nice piece. Now I know I need to learn where my notes are. Now I need to know my rhythms. More importantly to me as a bass player, I wanted to work on my scale modes, because modes kind of add flavor, but he's basically soloing, so you don't really need to use modes. I just had good timing here and there. My timing was actually really good in most of the spots. It's just like if you mess up, you don't want to put that whole take onto the track. You have to use another take, and it's in separate pieces, so we can do some more takes on some of the tracks I messed up, or just save them for later, since we have so many. But what I learned was, basically, it was weird. At the end of the album, he said, "I want you to join my band," and I was like, "All right," I thought it was just me and him the whole time, because I bought the drummer a drum machine to play at home, and then I bought another one like it, and I left it here, and I never played it. It was just for him to play, and then he formed another band, and then he never showed up and did any drum tracks on it, so it's like, don't really want to join the band, and it's like, the only reason why is because the only other members are a bass player, which they decided that they wanted to use live, which means I don't know, like, if I'm just a songwriter for bass, or if you can't compete with the other bass player, you can't, But I'm really not into just only backing up someone soloing either. Like, it's not. It was a great album and everything. It's just, yeah. I have to work on my. It's not that I have to work on my soloing, but a lot of people that are far more advanced in theory, they're gonna expect to play in a certain key, and it was hard to get them to follow me when I'm not educated in key signatures. It's like, yeah, follow me into nowhere. Doesn't really make sense, does it? And then that's the price you pay for playing with a better player. You have to back down and back them up if you don't have the theory they have. But it was a great album. I stand by it.